You ever have your brain just say, I'd rather shut down than deal with this? And just instead of completing the thought, you just have to yawn. That's what just happened to me, if you couldn't tell by the expressions on my face. I just made yet another icon, where you snap and does 3, 2, 1, and you take your little icon pick. Yet another icon with one of those expressive looks fitting to the description of the video. And apparently, that's just too good. Because I can't even do that anymore. They don't even let you do that anymore. They don't even let me do that anymore. Every time I make one of these icons, it just goes away, it just disappears. They just make some random pause of the fucking video, the icon instead. But that is definitely the face I'm making about this theory or realization. I hope it's just a theory, not a realization. I'm not claiming that it's a realization yet. But boy, at least we have a really oddly timed coincidence on our hands. And for this reason, I have plotted out exactly, well, roughly, how many jobs my plans in general, had hoped to provide for Zachary, Louisiana. But, Houston, we have a problem. That's 419 jobs across 14 different businesses. Well, I suppose 3 of which are kind of the same business, and a couple others are related businesses. So not 14 completely different trains of business, but 14 different places. Including my little corporate headquarters. From which even more jobs would be created. But recently, very recently as a matter of fact, since I've been making these little plans to start with a real estate buy due to the, good schools in Zachary here. Well, interestingly enough, right around the time I started talking about this, the Koch brothers bought a company called Georgia Pacific, and they're an Atlanta-based company that has a paper mill here in Louisiana. And it is the biggest job provider in this town. And it is the biggest tax revenue provider for the Zachary school system. Ha. And they've been having some management issues lately. And they said they're shutting down most of the plants and laying off like 600 people. They're going to keep making toilet paper and paper towels. But all of the actual paper processing is going to be stopped. and they're laying off uh, more than half of the workforce, like 2/3 of the workforce, like 700 people, 600 or 700 people, and then they're keeping about 300 people. But we'll see what the numbers wind up. So, in addition to that obviously sucking, and of course the only plans the politicians can come up with is helping these people find new jobs to maintain their livelihoods and their dignity and stuff like that. But that's not going to help the overall economy around here, because it's more than just those people's jobs. It's the whole logistical operation of the lumber being taken in, the paper being shipped out, that hub-centric economy layered on top of the actual product being produced and the jobs that provides, not to mention the revenue from the profits and the sales, and how that's taxed. That is what keeps the that's what makes a business into an economy, really, when you think about it. So, I don't want to say I'm fucked, but this is fucked up. This could basically destroy Zachary. And this is a direct target at the real estate market in Zachary, because it is the primary source of funding. Basically, what puts Zachary schools over the top as far as the population size and you know, the quality of schools and the revenue that they have is that paper mill. Take that paper mill away, you no longer have Zachary, really. You just have another baker. You just have more North Baton Rouge. So then those, basically my whole investment plan, the profit margin shrinks by half, which makes the whole expansion phase a whole lot more difficult. So, I've got some plans in mind, but I'm keeping those to myself. 419 jobs. Now I've got to see if I can come up with 300 more. If I could just get all these things trademarked, I could just share this meme on fucking Facebook. Just take a picture of this little pencil list. 419 jobs for Zachary, Louisiana. And only 73 of them are really outside work. Well, maybe up to twice that. Because some of the aquaculture work is going to be outside work, but it's not going to be all day outside work. But, you know, when it comes to construction crews, that's outside work. But anyways. Well played, Koch brothers. Well played. Well played, seeming Russian influence on Koch brothers' activities. I can't, as of yet, explain that, although I've heard about some different meetings here and there, and it's just kind of gotten buried in everything else, so whatever. Ah, if we could make these 18-wheelers here in Zachary, that would be something. But let's see. Do my buildings solve all the reasons they don't build anything this far south in Louisiana? Oh, yeah, yeah, they do. Well, that's something. I drew a side view of my truck with the trailer attached. And it looks fucking sweet. I drew it in the off-road trim. So I could, stretch out the suspension, see what it looked like with a good, 8 inches of fucking suspension travel in the back and 12 inches in the front. Looks nice. Because I don't know why, I just think an 18-wheeler should be able to go off-road. And it looks even more like a CRV in the front. Like that. Let's see, maybe I can put my hand over the juicy parts. There we go. Oh, pretty truck. Big control arms. But yeah, the main thing is this nose designed to collapse. See where the dotted line is? That's for the street trim bumper. Designed to basically just help not kill people, And that's kind of the whole idea. You put the engine in the back underneath my hand. And that way, there's not this huge chunk of momentum just sitting there waiting to take lives. And this can all scrunch in. So yeah, that's that. But this thing's bitching, man. It's got access to all the suspension, engine, 2 toolboxes, all very clean, and the metalwork is designed to be something that you'd see underneath like an old show truck, Because if you're gonna blend old with new, unibody with a newer approach at frame on body, you need to have some sort of a delicate touch to the styling. But that's also an excuse to be able to build it a whole lot easier. So I was considering um, what parts could be outsourced so that some sort of local manufacturing process could take place. And at the very least, we could maybe make some vehicle prototypes in off-road configuration for off-road plant industrial type use. And then I started realizing there are Mercedes van parts. The Mercedes van, you know? Lots of Mercedes van parts that I could just design this whole thing to bolt onto, or for them to bolt onto. And then we could just fucking make the metal frame and bend out a few body sheets. Spec it all and made up to the Mercedes parts. And we got Honda power with Mercedes fucking suspension and brakes, and basically a Mercedes cabin. Where the hell I'm gonna get those headlights? I don't know. But I know how to get shit made. I know how to communicate with part suppliers and shit like that. So nothing's out of the question. Anyway, doesn't look like the notifications went out today. Perhaps I'm onto something. Who knows? So yeah, it's funny how as few people watch this as just as obscure and unnoticeable as this broadcast is, as this channel is. You know, even though it's gotten over 1.5 million views that are still there, and well over 2 million views in actuality. For some reason, when I mention how they're screwing up closed captioning on certain broadcasts but not others, certain videos but not others. YouTube goes and disables closed captioning on my PS3 app. The little button that says closed captioning no longer even appears. And I talk about a real estate grab based on the booming economy of Zachary, Louisiana, and a right-wing fucking previously exhibited compromised so-called investment group destroys Zachary, Louisiana. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Oh. Well, Lewis Black is on it.
I'm sure they people. I'm not, but I don't plan to memorize all of their goddamn names. Is there a psychic network hotline I'm unaware of? Is there some kind of fucking 976 number I should be dialing on a daily basis so I can blow $400 to learn everybody's name before they call to yell at me?
Gotta love Lewis Black. I'm thinking maybe I'm going to turn off my broadcast and just go ahead and watch his. Because I don't want to be doing a competing broadcast with anybody who's actually worth a fuck. And, you know, Lewis Black is at the very least worth a fuck. You know. As long as it's not him you're fucking, I suppose. Unless you're into that sort of wrinkly, sweaty, frenzy of anger kind of thing. Anyways. Huh, he's fucking done. Oh, well, fuck you, Lewis. Now, here's the deal. I like to think of every misfortune as a blessing in disguise, or at least try to. You know, like the tape getting stuck to my wall, happening to be some sort of weird glowing cross in the background of all my videos. Or whenever I'm just comfortably holding my phone with my fucking left hand here, you know, just that is extra effort. What do you want from me? best I can do. That's only gonna last until like some mild movement. Then, but anyways, so the thing is, the paper mill uses a lot of the same shit going in. And this could be quite an opportunity, depending on how I approach things. I'm not going to tell you how I have already planned out how to approach things, but what a great time to have the labor force open up. That's all I'm saying. But what I'm worried about is the psychological effect on investors right now, because I was hoping to have people just opening up their wallets once we got started. However, I keep looking for competition. And every time I do, I just know that I'm looking at people who have never worked in a major retail environment. I'm looking at people who could not survive a day on a car lot. Maybe they'd get through 3 customers before they lost their shit. Or the customer lost their shit with them. Either way, it'd be a complete fucking waste of time. Well, thank you, person who clicked like and then unclicked it. Your like went away. Whoever you are. I don't know if you meant for that to happen. I didn't mean to like please you and then offend you. But, you know. I'm a dynamic entertainer like that. So yeah, I'm always looking for advanced construction techniques and stuff like that. And, you know, I've been coming up with my own for years based upon shit that I saw on like Beyond 2000 in the early 90s. And just every little trick I've seen here and there, even from like old Japanese, like interlocked wood type trick woodworking. But every now and again I'll go and I'll see a modular building person. They've got a new way to make different little parts of a building come together to make a building, and they make a little building or like some kind of little log cabin or something like that. And I'm just thinking, if this is my competition, I'm in really good shape. In fact, them existing, showing that there could be some kind of a market for this crap, that other investors have seen a market for this crap. But the poor execution, first of all, the the lack of durability, the lack of additional features, the lack of, groundbreaking thinking in any way. Your like went away again. And they're always too complicated, under featured. That is, they're made at some sort of mobile home type thing, you know, where you're expected to live in some sort of substandard level of convenience or comfort. Fuck that. And they're too hard to put together. On the factory side and in the field deployment side. If you need a crane, just to build a fucking mini house, fuck you. You know? Like, you've already screwed up the whole plan. All right? There are places that need houses that don't have cranes, first of all. And once you're adding that expense, you better be cutting the cost somewhere else, or you're going to be over budget for anything reasonable. It's like these shipping container homes, you know? And all the different little weird. Just because something's technically ecological, when you go about using uncommon building processes, what you do is you limit the repairability by limiting the number of people who know what the fuck to do with that when it breaks. Okay. And by limiting the repairability, you limit the overall marketability. You're basically building something that cannot hold value. Okay. And that's why these types of projects are doomed to fail in the market, or at the very most gain niche market status. Okay. Now, naturally, at this point, I'm supposed to say, my buildings, on the other hand, look like an house, function like an house, and are in every way an comfortable place to live. It seems my clichéness has interrupted the live stream. Yeah, sounds about right. Okay. All right, little duffel bag boy. Okay. What do we have there? We have my mother's chocolate covered cherries. It's like a tradition. She would get us so many damn chocolate covered cherries. She'd put them in our stockings, wrap them up in duct tape, all kinds of shit. She'd send us on a treasure hunt. You know, you ever been on one of them treasure hunts where you get like little clues and you gotta go throughout the house? She'd send us on one of those for another damn box of chocolate covered cherries after we already got two of them. Just, she had invented some sort of method of torturing children by giving them chocolate covered cherries. And it's just hilarious to think about. But like, me and my sisters, had all gotten to the point where we just like saw chocolate covered cherries and cringed, like, oh no, please not more chocolate covered cherries. My stomach just gurgled at the thought. But you know what? Now that my mom's gone, one at a time, spaced out, those fuckers are delicious. My mom was a crazy bitch, man. And I know I get my mood swings from her. But when she was cool, she was one of them moms that all your friends liked, you know. She could be cool. She just didn't like me very much. The fucking like disappeared again. Whoever the second person is watching right now, is that Max? Your likes aren't sticking. What's up, Conway? So what I was saying earlier, yep, there it is again, 2 likes. I keep saying that, they keep adding the like again, then it keeps disappearing again. I'll let you know as soon as it disappears again. Right now it still says 2 likes again. What I was saying earlier is the Georgia Pacific, which is the Atlanta-based paper mill here in town, after having been bought out by the Koch brothers several months ago, after we had been talking about the plan, I had said at the time they bought it just to shut it down. They supposedly bought it because it was having problems and they were going to reinvigorate things. Nope, they just fucking laid off 2/3 of the people. Over 600 people in Zachary just lost their fucking jobs. In a town of 50,000. You know, including children and retirees and shit. Lots of retirees. And as I was saying, when you're talking about a plant, you know, a paper mill, right? You're talking about a supply chain. Okay, so it's not just those jobs, right? Whenever you're talking about 600 jobs to begin with, you know, those people go home and they spend their money, and 600 jobs represents about 30 additional jobs worth of service people, you know. But Georgia Pacific has 18-wheelers lined up all day long with lumber. Okay? Therefore, it probably has trucks going out with paper all day long. Those trucks coming through the Zachary area, stopping at our big-ass gas stations here in town. If that stops, we start losing gas stations, start losing the machine shops, the rig service shops. Yeah. Your like's gone again. So, I sure am glad that I just designed a facility with a fucking a bay that can dock 10 18-wheelers at once. Because my modular houses, the way I've designed them to pull apart and go back together, um, it may require power tools. Like I'm looking at this goofy little fucking cardboard thing that they click together and shit. And how fucking stupid is that? Just don't drop your cigarette, you know, like it's fucking cardboard. And then you got this little tiny bedrooms and little tiny bathrooms, little tiny kitchen thing. No. Most of my bathrooms are 8 foot by 8 foot. That's a nice size for a bathroom. Okay. That is a kid's bathroom. I've got some half baths that are smaller than that. But still, they're, you know, like a full size armoire next to a normal ass toilet. And walking space and room in the corner for a trash can or whatever you need. That can all happen in just 4 foot by 4 foot. You know? That's all you need for that. People are going to be putting fucking goofy little weird bathrooms in places and making people stand right next to the sink while they pee and shit. Like, what the fuck? No. I want all of my bathrooms, okay, all of my bathrooms, every bathroom I've designed in the fucking like 150 different house plans I've made, okay? Oh shit. Every single bathroom, the door, if there isn't a separate little thing for the toilet to sit in, you know, a little separate little door areas for the toilet thing, if I don't have one of those, the door opens in such a manner as the person sitting on the toilet can go like that and keep it from being opened all the way. That's how much I've thought this shit out. I've moved over 70 times. 70. I switched schools 21 different times. Went to 19, I think, different actual fucking schools. Not including college. Including college, I went to 20 different schools. Lived in 3 countries, 4 states in this country. And I grew up in fucking real estate. Why the fuck I'm not already in the housing business, I have no idea. So what do you think of that, Mr. Conway? Is that comforting to know? Does that give you confidence in my business planning ability that I've even thought of the shitting experience? Yes. I make sure that you can shit in peace. In fact, oh, hey, your light disappeared again. I think it's got some AI that determines whether or not uh, something I'm saying could possibly be construed as disagreeable, and it's programming the like to go negative at those points. Either that or whoever that is just being really weird. Anyways, designing houses is a lot about poo management to begin with. Well, when it comes to floodproof houses, because when the house goes up, turds still need to go down, you know? So, anyways, I need to put my fucking my little semi truck design over where I can't see it because I'm just staring at it and configuring it in my head. And even the door handles look sweet. It's gonna make a good conversion truck. Okay, I put it over there. Now I put it over there, and I'm just going like I'm just sitting like this. Okay. I don't know why, but for some reason, doing that kind of made me have to fart a little. I'm going to chew it back for now. Anyway. Speaking of things that make me me, I was watching Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know, with the what's the guy's name? The acting chief of staff, who's also the White House budget director, Mick Mulvaney. You know, the guy that tries to pick up the thing in the snow and it burns his in the fire and it burns his hand and he has to go hold his hand in the snow and then he's like Hail Hitler and he got the thing up on his hand. Isn't that Mick Mulvaney? The resemblance is uncanny. If you don't know who I'm talking about and you've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, fucking close this for a second and Google Mick Mulvaney, acting chief of staff for Trump administration or whatever, and just look at those images right quick. I'll wait. But anyways, yes, Mick Mulvaney was Hitler's henchman in the Raiders of the Lost Ark, apparently. But that's kind of a side note. It's hilarious, but it's just a side note. I was watching Indiana Jones Skills with a Whip. And it's really not all that impressive what he does with the whip. Like, a real whip master can fucking fend off a whole crowd of people, man. Ain't worried about nobody with a sword, nothing. Especially the bigger the fucking guys, the bigger the swords, the less maneuverable their weaponry. The easier it is to take people down with a whip. Now, somebody small and fast with a fast blade becomes a problem. But only so much of a problem. I had unlocked some skill, some latent fucking skill, shortly after that time period where I was playing with those Mexican kids with the little white katana blades. I'm not sure whether I was still living in that same place, or whether this was after I moved. Oh, hold on, I gotta top off my cup. The light's gone again. Anyway. I had this cheap ass little black Halloween whip. Okay? Long bullwhip. It was about, I'd say, 6 feet long. I hadn't reached 6 feet yet. So it was, decently long for me. But I saw once on some kind of little learning channel, Discovery Channel thing talking about the skill of whippers and stuff. It was one of them things that came out after Raiders of the Lost Ark. Saw when I was younger, where a guy was sitting there practicing putting out candles with a whip. And that's really fucking easy. Okay. That took no time whatsoever to master it. What I like to do was see just how little of the whip you could get there, and just like how silently you could do it. But this was after that period where I had spent 2 weeks just obsessively fucking, like, I don't even think I blinked much. I was just so obsessively training on how to fight multiple people. And as such, anytime after that I got a new weapon, I would scenariolize. Yes, that's a rather effective made-up word. Scenariolize. Like what I was doing the other day when I was holding this knife like this, and I accidentally cut myself on the finger a little bit because I was sitting there trying to scenariolize what would happen if I used that as a blocker. How much of my pinky would be protected right there. How careful would I have to be? How much of that could I use? Not much. This is a pretty skittish situation for your fucking pinky to be in. But this is good for a situation that you have most of the control over, because you can be sneaky with the knife, or you have, an augmented blunt instrument. But anyways, scenarializing with the whip is seeing how many targets you could hit quickly, seeing how fast you could just draw that motherfucker and hit somebody at an odd angle. And what I realized is that with my, what I considered, I have pretty enhanced peripheral vision. Okay, like I'm looking down the hallway right now. Alright? All the way down the hallway. I'm looking. Wait. I can see the kitchen light now. Any movement I could see. I can't like read that way. But I have really good fucking peripheral vision, okay? And what I realize is that with a whip, whatever I can fucking see just by looking around like this, as fast as I can fucking think to hit it, every recoil, forwards and back, pop, 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 on target. And that's overhand, underhand, fucking every which way. Bear in mind, I had studied nunchucks for quite some time before this. So I could come up with all different fucking creative, clever ways to fucking swing something and fold it back up. Using a bullwhip like a nunchuck. It fucking felt right. Not one point in that entire time period, or really until fucking Emily pointed it out again, had I ever really thought of, like, Jesus used the whip. It's just, slipped my mind my whole life. I was like Indiana Jones and some weird sort of Texas ninja. I don't know. I like to steal hood ornaments. How I became that guy, I don't know. How I became this guy, I don't know. Your light's gone again. Anyways. What? Hold on. Oh man, come on. Interesting time for something to come out like that. Yeah, the U.S. Uh, Migration Services have basically approved thousands of child brides, um, both minors who migrated here having their older husbands come join them, or old men here getting minor immigrants from abroad. Yeah. That's just fucking special. But I wonder, like, how much of that shit's organized by Russians at Trump hotels. I'm just saying. Interesting time for something like that to come out. Both in terms of simple anti American sentiment, but also in terms of relativity to what Trump does, what Trump has done, has been doing, what Trump towers do. They launder money and people. So is it a prelude or a jading? You know? Let's try to remember those terms. Let's define those. A prelude or a jading, politically. Okay? Maybe not in the sketchbook. See, the lack of terms, commonly understood terms, shorthand terms, to define basically the fucking activities of deceivers is one of the key components in them getting away with their bullshit. And it's always seemed to me that demons of forgetfulness and attention span and shit like that always seem to plague you more when you approach these kinds of subjects. It always seems a little harder to focus on these things more than most things. They're like worse than math problems, you know? So, what was the other word? Prelude? Oh, fuck. See? Let me rewind myself. Wait, no, I can't do that shit. I'm gonna lose the whole damn subject matter, aren't I? This is skittish. was a good word to describe it, too. Do you remember the word, Conway? Please? Somebody? Howdy? No, howdy was not the word. Prelude or a... I remember the whole explanation. I got that ready to go. Just need the word. What's the word? Bird's the word. Your light just disappeared again. I'm stuck on prelude and precursor because precursor was the only, it was like the alternative word to prelude. I was trying to decide whether or not prelude. And again, precursor could be another definition too, so I'm going to put that down there. Oh, come on, really? What's the other word? Please? It seemed pretty fucking important at the time. Might as well put propaganda at the bottom, or propaganda. Which would mean we have somebody in the accountability and reporting side of things. Timing shit. Okay. But it could be a prelude to you know, something he's gonna be investigated for. So, you know, here's this problem in America. Oh, it turns out this person's been causing it. You know, that would be a good thing. A prelude is a good thing. You know, they've got H-22s in them. They're good things. Whereas a precursor would be something that makes you get used to it. Jading. So yeah, let's do prelude versus... we can make them 3 Ps. The 3 Ps of how not to get pissed on by Trump. It could be propaganda. Okay. Meant to marginalize, meant to, well, oh, it's going on there, it's going on all, you know, it's on both sides. There's all kinds of people, right? Marginalize. So it could be a precursor. could be something that they intend to use to directly divert blame, or it could just be propaganda meant to blot it out in the noise. Yeah. But it could be on the good guy side. It could be a prelude to something about the investigation. Here's the problem. Turns out this guy's been the cause. But understanding that a news story like that isn't just that news story is the point. Associated Press, AFP, Euronews, they don't just release news stories, you know, and like something like this being so closely related to so many issues right now, just happening to be issued as a government report, it's a hell of a coincidence in a lot of ways. You're like gone again. Anyways, one of these days I'm gonna pick up that tea towel so it stops looking horrible, and fold it back up and put it underneath the air. Look at the air compressor, it's just sitting on its side. I don't even care. Is it even working anymore? I don't even know. I won't get into my excuses for this shit, but there's a lot of them. However, I did finally order some salt. I'm about halfway through my fucking roadie resin, but I got reef crystals again. You're like disappeared again. You just put it back, I thought. I bought reef crystals again. Let's get back into easy reefers mode, shall we? Reef crystals versus instant ocean. Maybe I'll do a whole video on that. There you go. New page. So, if I would be asked 10 years ago or today to explain the proper use of those two different products, it would be the same exact explanation. And it is therefore 100% my fault for fucking this up and getting instant ocean instead of reef crystals. And that's why I have algae on the back glass instead of coralline. In a nutshell, that's one of the main reasons why that looks like shit. Okay. Here's the deal. Let me finish this fucking cigarette and put it out so I can drink coffee in peace and light another one before I get into this explanation. Okay. One more drag. I refuse to use my other hand. I don't know why. I'm not playing with my balls or anything. Well, only one of them. No. Kind of leaning on my elbow. I use it to stretch out my spine. In fact, the way I'm sitting right now is kind of interesting. I have a hand tucked under my knee, and my elbow against my thigh to try to leverage my spine off of itself, basically. Just because there's just a dull, dead, throbbing pain that will eventually turn into like a loud, piercing, throbbing pain. And I much prefer the dull, dead, throbbing pain. So, just channeling Norm Macdonald for a second to get myself through the crisis. But then again, that was my joke before I ever heard Norm Macdonald tell it. See, that's why I'm conflicted about, like, the comedians I've grown up liking. I usually like them for making jokes similar to the ones that I just naturally fucking make all the time. So who am I quoting? Like, I had an "oh, really?" long before Jim Carrey did. Or long before I ever fucking saw Jim Carrey. I never had an "alrighty" then. But it's the same fucking thing, you know? Alright, I'm allergic to giving myself too much credit. Anyways. What the fuck was the story I was about to blow my fucking nose. Jeez. Alright. Holy shit, popped my ears. And I'm drawing a total fucking blank. Conway, you feel like being a little more helpful? Fuck was a story that I just started telling. And then as I was putting down my coffee cup, I got distracted by the fucking dual explanation I was getting into. And now I'm looking at this headline about a fucking 13-year-old being injured in a drive-by shooting in Houston. I'm like, oh, good times, good times. I got distracted by my dull throbbing pain, which is feeling much better actually, because I got to put out my cigarette. Still snotting on myself though. Your like went away. Just now, just then, just at that moment, right now. And now I'm blowing my nose without hitting the mute button. Conway, you there, brother? All right. Instant ocean versus reef crystals. Wasn't that it? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. I'm just channeling Conway and like, what he would remind me of. I'm remembering. Uh, like if he were to eventually remind me, what would he say? You use psychic abilities in place of an attention span. That just seems perfect for some reason. Anyways, so what fucking instant ocean versus reef crystals. The two most widely available salt mixes for the reef hobby. Both Instant Ocean products. One is Instant Ocean's reef crystals, and it says right on the thing, raises calcium and magnesium. And this is a good thing. However, studies show that a mixture of nothing but reef crystals provides an excess balance of alkalinity and pretty damn high on the calcium and magnesium side too. So it's kind of overdosing on your calcium and alkalinity. Not much, but it brings it right up to the border of dangerous levels, and certainly what most people would consider to be too high. And basically, unless you're trying to grow SPS that is going to look like shit once somebody else gets it, you shouldn't use just pure reef crystals. Okay? For instance, when mixing up water for a new saltwater aquarium, when you're initially cycling the aquarium, use nothing but Instant Ocean. Why? Because most of that water is going to get changed, and Instant Ocean is cheaper. And you don't have anything, you shouldn't have anything, because it's a fucking new aquarium. When you do your first water change, you can use half and half. Mix up 2 gallons of Instant Ocean, mix up 2 gallons of reef crystals. And then from then on, when you do smaller water changes, use nothing but reef crystals. And then you get back to how I save money and hardly ever have to replace my 2-part solution. Okay. Was by doing those small water changes, targeted siphoning up detritus hotspots, dead zones. Okay. And using reef crystals to augment the calcium and alkalinity. And the less water changes you do, the more you have to rely on the 2-part. The more water changes you do, the less you have to rely on the 2-part. If you're using reef crystals to do a small water change once a week, you don't need any 2-part. If you're going to do it every 2 weeks, you don't need to use 2-part until the 1-week period has passed. You Your light just disappeared again. That's fucking hilarious. Um, so the point is, treat the reef crystals like a concentrated formula, sort of like salt mix with two-part solution already added into it. Okay, so your instant ocean is just fish tank levels of calcium and alkalinity, but your reef crystals is just past reef tank levels of calcium and alkalinity. So if you mix them together 1 to 1, you wind up with ideal water. Okay. So what you want to do is, as you add stock over time, it's going to be consuming a little bit more calcium over time. And you replace your water change water with nothing but reef crystals from that point on. And as the proportion of instant ocean water to reef crystals water increases on the absolute perspective, it actually stabilizes on the actual perspective because of the relativistic effect provided by the growing corals and coralline algae balancing out the scales there. Does that fucking explanation make sense? I kind of went pretty far with the linguistics of it, but best I could communicate. But then again, I'm sitting there waiting for feedback, and nobody's been able to comment since Sean had said howdy. Which is weird. I think Sean's trying to reset his device now because I just saw the viewer drop. It's been 2 viewers, now it's 1 viewer. So maybe that's Conway trying to reset. Because no one can merely just watch the Lost Begotten channel. I mean, Easy Reefers, whatever. There he is. Oh, so just leaving me hanging then. Oh, I see. Busy. Oh. I thought I just heard something and I don't know what the hell it was. Must have been a cat outside. I don't know. Cat talking to a possum. Probably. Yeah, I get weirdly telepathic with people who get to know me too well. If only there were some sort of Star Trek level, actually beyond Star Trek level memory device that could track how many times I stopped talking but kept thinking and you just kind of kept hearing what I was thinking. Just out of sheer deliriousness and lack of inhibition, you know? Anyways, if you need some sleep, brother, go to sleep. I'm just chilling. I keep looking over at my truck. It is a splendid truck. Come here. I want to draw more. Did I just flash it? Shit. Trying to picture how nice of a box van could be made out of this thing. Apparently, when the other person left, their like stayed and has not gone anywhere since then. That's fascinating. Alright, so box truck would only have one set of rear wheels, only need one engine in the rear. Still would have very good use of the front wheel. Since this already has the 18-wheeler drawn on it. Seems like it would work more proportionally like an armored truck. And in fact, the design's already well suited to that to begin with. When it comes down to the side crumple zone type areas. Um, Actually, inadvertently, I've made this rather brilliant as far as ballistic protection goes. But then, I do that a lot. But let's see here. I look up to see 4-foot sections just to get it, like, cause the ceiling, you know, it's in these 4-foot sections, right? So anytime I need to picture exactly 8, 12, 16 foot, I just look up and count the fucking sections. And I just don't have to have that in RAM, and I can play with it. And really just kind of like put whatever I'm drawing right up there to blow it up in my imagination. Okay. Eight-foot long box truck. Probably make it like 8.5 feet so you could fit 8-foot shit in there. Makes me wonder if my 18-wheeler bed is just too damn short to begin with. I need to actually look at that. Measuring the tires that go on an 18-wheeler so I can figure out what the other measurements I'm looking at are. But look at it this way. Every now and again, some asshole decides to one-off a supercar. And every now and again, Noble comes along. Pagani. Hell, that's how Ferrari, Lamborghini. It's worth it to a trucker. Okay, guys who've been running the fucking route for 20, 30 years, some of them. Okay. Worth it to them to put a whole lot of money into that big rig. Okay. Probably a lot more than most of your supercars. And for good reason. Shit. Yeah, sleep there sometimes. A lot of times. So, if you want to put supercar level thoughtfulness and engineering into an 18 wheeler, that might be a marketable manufacturing prospect for a local, small time, you know, the size of a Noble type, or what's the Koisenegg? Yeah, Koisenegg. Imagine if Koisenegg was just an 18-wheeler company. Hmm? So I think if I can get the governor to help me out. This truck design might save Zachary. Not be the most fuel efficient. I've certainly found a lot of room for batteries. A lot of room for batteries. Certainly a lot of fuel. And you know, as far as the need for a big diesel to provide a sufficient torque, um, you know, people have been thinking that a hybrid setup can work for years. People have been designing rigs around that for years. But they can't seem to merge aerodynamics and safety together. They've made them less safe in their attempts to make them more aerodynamic. And I think I can do this without diesel. Through redundancy. By having two motors instead of one. And yeah, they're only going to be V6s, but they're going to be fucking VTEC V6s, and that's what I think. Okay, Conway, you know obviously anything about diesels, so that's more than I know about diesels. If you can manage. What do you think of the VTEC cam advantage being able to provide that low end torque? Do you think an iVTEC V6 can be tuned, you know, obviously it's going to need to be stroked. It's more than likely going to need to be cold charged or supercharged. Um, as you know, I like ram air. So, yeah, obviously I have. Oh, yes, ram air. So, instead of turbos, instead of a mechanical supercharger, I turn drag into horsepower. Okay? That's always been my thing. That's what made my fucking Integra so fast at the top end. Oh, there's no other explanation for that. You just shouldn't be able to get a small motor to breathe like that without a turbo. And I had a special map sensor. I had a fucking special O2 sensor. And this ECU that was capable of using these things. There were these alternate part numbers, okay, just with the 93 Integra. Because apparently the GSR, the 1.7 liter, needed some crazy shit to be able to run properly. I don't know what it was, right? But the only the 1.7 liter and the JDM 1.6 liter ECUs could use that 5-volt range O2 sensor and register up to 3.5 positive PSI with the map sensor. Or I think it was 5 PSI with the map sensor. I think the regular one does 3.5. Yeah, that's right. But I might be wrong. No, it might be like 2.5 with the stock, and it was 3.5. But for sure, it was 5 volts versus 3 volts with the O2 sensor, and the 5-volt range gave the ECU the ability to tune it much better, much more finitely. But anyways. I think I know enough about engine tuning to make those V6s put out, okay? With stock cams. That's for the torque. Combined with the enlarged front wheels and electric motors on the front wheels. Not hybrid motors combining electric motors with motors. Okay. I remember I emailed Honda for the first time in 1996 when I first learned how an internal combustion engine worked, and I first learned what a flywheel was at a basic level. Oh, I so totally knew nothing about cars. But in 1996, I emailed Honda, and I said, you know that big spinning piece of metal? Because at the time, I had been working on perpetual motion, just as like a fantasy concept, you know? I was a fucking teenager. If you put a bunch of magnets around a flywheel and sequence them with magnets in the housing around that, you have additional power that doesn't interfere with the motor but can be programmed to add to the motor, can help you start the motor. And the idea was that it wouldn't be a direct vectoring type uh, electric engine that could actually provide thrust on its own. It would be the type of thing that would provide boost, electronic boost. Like, I just thought of it like the physics of it. I think I used the word thrust. I didn't even know the word boost at the time as it relates to cars. But they wound up doing something very similar, only obviously much better with the 98 Insight. I didn't even know until 20 years later that they had done it that way. I had been still sitting there thinking in like 2013, like, I wonder if Honda ever did it my way. Oh, look, they've been doing it the whole time. Oh, good job, Honda. But short of that type of apparatus, okay, that is magneto enhanced flywheels. So instead of a flywheel powering a magneto, it'd be a magneto powering a flywheel, only multiple magnetos, kind of. And just sort of pulsed electromagnetics at the point of advance, you know. But don't, but don't, multiple times. Maybe four magnets, right? A lot of the old weird wagon wheel diagrams and shit kind of resemble this technology. But anyways, that would allow the rear engines to do more of the job. Now, obviously, if I'm going to rig up a prototype with Honda parts, I got my work cut out for me. Because I'm going to have to find drag racing, high horsepower, fucking torque converter, transmission parts. You know, I'm gonna have to go to a race guy to get clutch packs and fucking everything else for those transmissions, or else they ain't gonna tow shit. Okay. The thing is, a Honda Ridgeline, four-wheel drive, has a stock towing capacity of 5,000 pounds. That little bitty truck, with its 3.5 liter V6. Okay, not a 4.3 liter V6, not a straight six. A 3.5 liter, sometimes a 3.2 liter, I think. In the older Acuras, which I might pull from. But all the new Pilots, it's not a 3.8, it's not a 3.7, it's not a 4, it's not a 4.2, it's a 3.5 liter V6. They can tow 5,000 fucking pounds. Stock. No big exhaust, no big air cleaner. Stock. The all-wheel drive model gets, I think, um, 19 miles to the gallon on the highway. The old Ridgelines. The new one get much better, I think. I think they get 22, 23. But even the old boxy-ass Ridgeline pickups, not gas guzzlers by any means. Not great, but not gas guzzlers. And that's the all-wheel drive one. Naturally, the front-wheel drive one got better gas mileage. 21. But if I can tune for torque and fuel efficiency and strength, just basically tune for strength. Okay, focus on tuning for strength. And then rely on the ram air to get through the taller gears. Okay. Maybe even go sequential shit. How bitchin' would it be to have a sequential gearbox on an 18-wheeler? I think my balls just got bigger thinking about it. That's exactly what I'm gonna fucking do. So, an 18-wheeler, fully loaded, up to around 80,000 pounds. Now, obviously, 5,000 times 2 is not 80,000. There you go. That's a great idea, Conway. That's been my legacy way of thinking. And I'm sure everybody's seen that guy, you know, and most of us have had the thought too, like, wait, can't I just throw a generator in my trunk and have an electric motor, and the generator makes the electricity? So here's the thing. Providing that kind of amperage to a wheels under acceleration load is either going to depolarize your alternator really quickly by overloading it, or you're going to need a really big alternator, creating a whole lot of drag on the engine. That's the gasoline engine. So kind of defeating the purpose and creating a delicate balance where efficiency can maybe be achieved, you know? But you see the problem there. Um, so what Honda has done, what Porsche did first on their prototypes, um, and Audi as well. And it's in the new NSX, it's in the new McLarens. Um, but Honda has a specific one that's based on that fucking email I sent in 1996, um, where the engine braking, okay, at the flywheel, you know, you'd need a bigger alternator, right? The engine braking itself, you inverse the polarity on the magnets and couple them to your basically you have a solenoid type switching device under braking that as the engine is decelerating and the momentum of the car is pushing it, continuing to push it forward, then those magnets engage, or that conduit engages, reversing the polarity of the magnets and causing the batteries to recharge. Okay, and then from then on, they've combined that technology with the regenerative braking that I was trying to allude to with Porsche and Audi and the NSX. They've all got that regenerative braking, which uses a similar series of pulsing magnets to provide power to the batteries when the car hits the brakes. But Honda has that sequencing flywheel. Um, so if I ever get to the point where I could buy 1% of Honda, I would get them to make a V6 version of that. But now they only make a 4-cylinder version of that, as far as I know. And I don't think the housing would be adaptable. Um, the internals might be, but the housing is crucial, you know. Anyways, more crucial than in most applications, you know. It's not just a housing. And transmission housing aren't just housings to begin with, you know. They got holes and conduits and shit that need to be exactly as they are and reinforced. And anyways, so what I would do is have all of the gears shrunk. Okay. The Ridgeline probably comes geared to, like most Hondas come geared to, accelerate to 163 miles an hour if you put enough power into it. Okay. They don't do this so that the car can go 163 miles an hour. They do it so it can be tuned and useful, you know, at however the fucking user wants to tune it and all. But they do it for fuel mileage. So what you have is a you know, first gear is and then second gear is and then third gear is and then fourth gear is and then fifth gear is but see, VTEC makes all of this go and then fifth gear, instead of going it goes it starts to go for a second, and then if you just keep it floored and get it back into the VTEC range, well, in the old ones, you know. But iVTEC, it doesn't have that to it. It just keeps doing what it do. If you have the power, if you have the potential to begin with, if you have the breathing opened up and the fuel pressure increased. Now, take that top gear and leave it the fuck alone. Okay? Maybe shrink it as far as having a top out at 140, 145. Okay? You still want that gear for the gas mileage. Okay? Take your fourth gear, move it down a little bit. Take your third gear, move it down a little bit more. Take your second gear, move it down just a little bit more than that. And take your first gear and put it dead in fucking between where it was and zero. Zero as far as disparity of the ratio. So first gear is just the easiest fuck gear, right? And then second gear is and then third gear probably from 45 to 55. Fourth gear accelerating all the way to 90. And then fifth and sixth gear, just highway cruise and overdrive for gas mileage saving, basically. Now, another thing that you'd need to make this kind of setup work, that I personally like to include in all of my vehicle designs because I like to go off-roading, and I've driven through the fucking desert, and I've dealt with a cracked radiator and shit like that. Cooling. You gotta have lots of cooling. Okay? Got to have plenty of cooling. I just drew in another vent. But, you know, the whole purpose of a chassis is for three things. Keeping people safe, reducing fuel consumption, and keeping the fucking engine and transmission cool. Yeah, I've seen that too. I've seen leaf blowers, all kinds of shit. The problem is, again, that power's got to come from somewhere, and creating a draw on the alternator reduces the horsepower output of the engine. You know? So it's like basically the more juice you use, the less potential for peak spark output you have to begin with. So the less horsepower you can make. But also, the more your alternator is having to produce its charge, the more it's physically resisting. Okay. Um, to get around that, to to have an alternator working at peak performance without per, affecting the spark, the peak spark performance, as in the ability of the spark plug to make individual sparks at high RPM. Okay, that that's a matter of like multiplication that has to come from extremely high amperage. Um, that would require a larger alternator and heavier wiring and create a larger horsepower strain on the engine, because then you're talking about moving a bigger belt and a bigger wheel, right? So these forces all kind of work against each other. Huh. I see. You put it's like a temporary boost thing. All right. Here's my cleverest idea along those lines. Um, you know the little pellet gun CO2 canisters? Well, they make little nitrous canisters similar to those. Okay. Now, there's a lot of places where nitrous is illegal. So I had devised a system of sort of incognito sprayers, basic little inlets, okay, and a little cup holder like thing that mounted behind your e-brake or wherever, and you just take your little, I think the little name brand I had for the time was called Puckett. You take your little puck and you say Puckett. And that little bit of nitrous is good for one long fucking gear. Okay, so you get in the fucking, you go through first, second, and if third is the gear that you want, you fucking get into third. You can then shift into fourth, pull that one out, put another one in. But that's it. It's just a one gear fucking, the one gear wonder. Just a little secret weapon kind of thing. But that reminds me of just fucking, if you're gonna compress a bunch of air and bring it with you, um, you can actually power a fucking car on that. Um, I don't know how much boost it could give to an engine, because the amount of CFN that an engine moves is really tremendous. But compressed air in a tank, um, if continuously supplied. Um, doesn't Jay Leno have a fucking pneumatic car? It's like a compressed air car. You can do some cool shit with that. And that's more of how I remember cars being in Europe a long time ago. Certainly a rather clean way of doing things, you know. You can burn all your fuels off the streets. Anyways. So here's the deal. For the yard, all I needed was 2 box trucks. I can prototype box trucks with stock Honda motors. No fucking problem. And that'll give us a chance to screw around with frame design. And, you know, I'm going to source the suspension parts from other shit, obviously. And I'm going to design, you know, like, for those of you who can't figure that out, um, to do that, to build a car for your very own self, you pick the donor car for the parts, or cars plural for the parts. Okay. And you design the frame with the same bolt holes, the same spacing, the same dimensions in those areas where said part's attached. And as long as you line up the same geometry, as long as you account for the same uh, uh, torque loads and weight loads and you know, as long as it doesn't rip itself apart, you may have successfully built and car. And the reason why you'd want to go with already existing interchangeable parts, okay, that's because when something breaks, or when a bushing or ball joint or something, brake road or something wears out, you want to keep it simple. You want it all to come from one thing or two things. That way, when you need a part, you can remember what the hell to get. Last thing you want to do is have to have the auto parts guy come from behind the counter out to your weird looking shit and ask him what the fuck that looks like to him. And no, you just ruined his day, and yours isn't going to get any better. Alright, well, anyways. I guess I might go ahead and call it a broadcast. I suppose considering what's happening here in Zachary, with all these people getting laying off, me talking about my business plan has become more relevant than ever. Although, unfortunately, I feel like I'm partly to blame for it, considering Koch Brothers, fucking the right-wing fucking one of the Russian collusionists. Just bought that fucking paper mill. And now they've laid almost everybody off. They've laid 2/3 of the fucking employees off. Just over 2/3, actually. I think it was like 600 and something, not just 600. I want to say 680, but that might be too high, and I don't want to overestimate. So tomorrow, basically, the federal government doesn't get paid. None of the fucking federal workers are going to get paid. Tomorrow is going to be a pay-free payday. And they're already out there protesting in front of the White House right now. Right. Right. That's what I said at the time, was this is just them trying to fuck me up. Okay? As weirdly narcissistic and fucking delusional as that sounds, it's technically correct. That takes, like Americans just don't think like that anymore, and I understand that, and I understand how that just seems like fucking crazy talk, but you have to think in terms of ruthless strategy, because you're dealing with ruthless strategists, all right? They bought this place saying they were going to fucking make it better because it was declining. Now they're just saying they're laying people off because it was declining. Boom. Nope, they bought it just to fuck me up. They bought it because I've been talking about the schools in Zachary. They just did a basic level of research into Zachary. Georgia Pacific is widely known as our #1 employer. You know, Zachary is two things. It's half New Orleans evacuees and half the existing mill town. Okay, but it was a mill town. There's oil, but it's mostly the mill. And the oil's over there way by the chemical plants, by the way. Not around here. Not that I've been digging or anything. But I did shoot the ground a couple times just in case there'd come a bubbling crude or something. Texas tea. Black gold. Oil, that is. Okay. Here's a little story about a man named Jed. Poor mountaineer barely kept his family fed. And then one day he was shooting at some food. Houston touted as top destination, says Houston. Nobody wants to go to Houston. It's like, oh, let's go see what generic looks like as we try not to get shot. Come and possibly be carjacked in Houston. You know, like, what's the draw? Come see our monuments to all the people who didn't get carjacked in Houston. Mm. Right. I'm thinking maybe I should take some notes on this, you know. What's the name of that aluminum company? Mr. Conway? Did you notice the other viewer? Yeah. All right. So, hmm. Romania to take EU presidency. Huh. Johannes was the former, I think. No, was it Juncker? Huh. Not much difference in the family, so. Hopefully they're good kids. Meteorologist fired for racial slur speaks to CNN. Why? Why? Who cares? Why don't I get to speak to CNN? Oh, that's right. Because what I say might actually matter. Oh, that's right. Oh, makes perfect sense. Anyways. Who? ABC News is doing something on Bill Clinton for no fucking reason. Oh, the other side of Bill Clinton. Oh, Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky's worlds overlap. Oh, really? At no point could have Bill Clinton been seduced by a young, hot Russian thing. Nobody ever said it like that. Right? Boy. Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap the broadcast up before I have another sneezing fit. Excuse me. The last little detail I've observed today that I'll leave you with, Mr. Conway, is try to find where Trump got shown by a Border Patrol agent one of the tunnels. She had a live cam on one of the tunnels that's been dug underneath an existing section of wall. Like, literally, he's sitting there having to look at exactly why his wall is a dumb idea right in front of him. And I hope that moment gets... I don't know. I hope that is just the moment that sums up his whole fucking presidency right there. Anyways, and I hope it ends soon. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everybody else who watches. And thanks for all the people who clicked like. And I don't know what the hell is going on around here in Zachary. But pray for us that this shit gets resolved. And hopefully it'll be... Pray that it's a blessing in disguise. Yeah. Because, praying for stuff really matters. I don't know. I'm just trying to make myself feel better.